Mabuhay! I am Alexandra Gabriel, and this is my output for Language Programs and Policies in Multilingual Society, Module 2. Let us first discuss the pre-Spanish period before 1565. Before the Spanish colonialization, we have no formal language policy. Imagine a world without textbooks, without schools as we know them. Before the Spanish arrived, the Philippines was just a patchwork of communities, each speaking its own language. These weren't just words, but they were the heartbeats of their own culture. Knowledge wasn't written down, it was passed down orally, through stories, through songs, and through the skilled hands of artisans teacher teaching their crafts. And there is also Baybayin, an ancient script, but it wasn't widespread. So, language was local, personal, and powerful. Life only revolved around the community. Your language defined who you were, where you belonged. Trade happened, but it was a dance of different tongues, a testament to the flexibility and adaptability of the people. Now, let's discuss the Spanish colonial era, 1565-1898. The Spanish colonial era marked the first systematic attempt at a formal language policy, which they created Education Act of 1863. Royal decrees aimed to establish Spanish as the dominant language of instruction and administration. Friars are often tasked with education, initially had to learn local language to effectively communicate, but the ultimate goal was Spanish dominance. Spanish became the language of power, governance, and the language of elite. So knowing Spanish opened doors to better jobs, social status, and access to education and opportunities. However, there is a vast majority that continued to oppress the native tongues or the local tongues of the Philippines before. The imposition of Spanish created linguistic divide, with language becoming a marker of social class and access to power. The next period is American colonial era, 1898 to 1946. The American colonial period brought a dramatic shift, introducing English as the primary language of instruction. The arrival of American teachers, known as Thomasites, established a new public education, far different from the Spanish. Pre-public education and direct methods of English instruction were implemented. So, English rapidly became the language of education, commerce, and government. So, proficiency in English became crucial for social mobility and economic advancement, leading to a significant shift in the linguistic landscape. So, English language, media, newspapers, and literature gained prominence, influencing popular culture and shaping the way Filipinos communicated. However, this also led to a decline in the use of some indigenous languages, particularly in urban areas. The next period is Commonwealth era, 1935 to 1942. The Commonwealth period saw a push for national unity and identity through the development of national language. So they have created the Executive Order Number 134 or the 1935 Constitution. It advocates for national language based on one of the existing native languages, the promotion of Tagalog, to become the basis for Filipino aim to create a sense of national unity and identity. However, this was met with resistance from non-Tagalog speaking regions, highlighting the deep-seated linguistic diversity of the country. The implementation of Tagalog in schools and government gradually increased in its use in everyday life, but it didn't immediately replace the other languages in many communities. The last one is post-war and the Republic era, 1946 to 1986. The post-war era focused on balancing the legacy of colonial languages with the promotion of national identity. The 1987 Constitution emphasized bilingual education, leading to the bilingual education policy, and more recently, the mother tongue-based multilingual education. The bilingual education policy aimed for a balance, using Filipino for social studies and English for science and math. This policy reflects the reality of multilingual nation, but its implementation has faced challenges. While the mother tongue-based education program introduced later aims to strengthen the use of mother tongues in early education, recognizing the importance of linguistic diversity in cognitive development and cultural preservation. This has impacted everyday life by supporting the use of a wider range of languages in education and community context. Before we end this, let me give you my perspective or reflection on this presentation. The Philippines, in terms of language education, is the story of cultural preservation in the face of colonial restraint or dominance that sparked national identity and unity. The oral tradition in the pre-Hispanic period flourished with organic linguistic diversity as the medium of knowledge transmission. During the Spanish regime, Spanish was imposed through the Español Solo Ordinance, whereas English became a colonial medium for imposition during the American regime through their Education Act No. 74 and emphasized the action through Thomside program from 1901 to 1902. Language became the basis for social classifications, thereby impacting daily lives of the majority of Filipinos. Moreover, the Executive Order Number 134, signed by President Quezon, further solidified the national language of the Philippines, and Tagalog became the starting point in identity formation via the Commonwealth era rather. A lot of resistance emerged, yet it fostered the sense of national cohesion. The power of bilingualism since the post-war era, now modified by mother tongue-based education, pays homage to the national identity and global competitiveness, honoring diversity in languages. This historical narrative bears the continuous fight between cultural preservation and the requisites of globalization quality hallmark of dynamic, changing language policy in the Philippines.